Okay, it's time for another episode of Uncle Garrett
and Aunt May.
So today we're going to talk about when is the right time to marry. Another subscriber request.
Thank you again. It's a good topic.
Definitely, yeah, and it's a very good question.
Very much.
So let's get into it.
Okay.
So there are kind of like two general thoughts of when to marry, and it's been called the cornerstone time versus the capstone time.
I think we're talking about the age consideration, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
So with the cornerstone model, you get married young, before you've really established yourselves professionally, maybe even before you finish school.
I think that's just defined with like younger than 24 years old.
Right.
For both male and female, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. And the idea is that you get married early and you kind of grow up together. And so the potential benefit is that you kind of grow into one.
The mind is more flexible, right? Adjust to accommodate.
Yeah. And you know, brains are still maturing till mid-20s usually, give or take.
Yeah, sometimes 27.
Right.
Yeah.
A little bit later for men than for women.
Yeah.
And that's in contrast to the capstone model, which is get yourself established in a career and get kind of start to become prosperous. You know, your life is already going. You've put in place all the major parts, and now finally the marriage part is the capstone.
I see.
Right.
For the people older than 24 years old.
Right. Yeah. Usually mid to late 20s would be more of a capstone model.
Yeah.
Or even into the 30s for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And it turns out the level of satisfaction in the marriage, and we have some surveys done by Wheatley in their paper State of Unions that kind of describe, you know, what are marriages like, you know, cornerstone versus capstone. And it turns out they're very similar. There's no, you know, there's pros and cons to both. You know, certainly getting married earlier, there tends to be more sexual satisfaction and overall relationship satisfaction.
For both men and women.
Right.
Married earlier has that like about 10% better.
Right.
Yeah. Why is that?
I think probably because if you're getting married later, you've already had a number of sexual partners.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you have multiple sexual partners, you know, when you have sex, your body's filled with oxytocin. That's a hormone that it tells your brain to bond with the person you're with. It's the love drug. Right. And when you have sex with someone and then you break up with someone, you're training your mind and body to ignore the effects of oxytocin. Whereas if you enter with low or even best zero prior sexual partners, that oxytocin is going to bond you to your partner, especially as you exclusively have sexual relationships with your partner many times, especially when you're young, right?
We do have a lot of neighbors here that just they are high school sweethearts.
Yeah.
And they are just really sweet.
Yeah.
They just hold hands all the time, and you can see from their facial expression and the eyes when they look at each other, it just you just feel that the love's still there when they are 50s, 60s,
Right.
70s.
Yeah. So society right now kind of prefers and recommends the capstone model. You know, get yourself established. Don't marry early. That can really mess up your life. But that turns out to not be entirely true. You know, if you're, I'd say, you know, one of the important things, if you're going to get married young and you want to grow together and grow into one, is to be good at conflict resolution. And more than that, you know, have each of you, and this is true no matter what age you get married, but the more that you have a personal love for growing virtue.
Oh, that's a big one. Yes. Yes.
If
both
you,
sides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If both people have a love of growing virtue,
Yeah.
You're going to grow into one. Because
in that case, it doesn't matter age, you know, earlier or later.
Right.
Right.
Well, even better young then. Because if you're growing virtue together, it's going to be a super strong union.
But it will work for later marriage too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think, at least in my case, that I feel like later, I just have more of a life experience. I know, you know, what the person fit me, you know.
Yeah, you might know yourself better.
Yes,
and
what was a good fit for you better. You understand that better. Yeah.
Yes, and things can change drastically, you know, from your early 20s to your late 20s.
Yeah.
Your views on things can change quite a bit.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and
the
that's
person
that's
you like in 20s might not be the person you like at 30, 40, 50, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's something to consider.
So, and ideally, you know, if you are undergoing a lot of change and you're doing a lot of learning, which is good, you're doing that together.
Exactly. Grow up together.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, now we can talk about the indicators that show the maturity of the relationship. So how much you're ready to marry.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The relationship has to be, of course, pretty mature.
So they can fruit from this marriage, right? So the first is the dating period. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think you found some research that showed dating for
between 1 to 2 years dating time, and it has 20% higher chance that the marriage would last than less a year. More interesting is if the dating time goes beyond at least 3 years, and then the chance of the marriage last is higher, 50%.
Yeah, that's significant.
Much more secure of your marriage.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think maybe.
And so, and especially if you put that dating period to good use by, like, for example, actually doing some objective investigation of your partner. Yeah.
In China, that when I was a kid, there was a tradition that the families will check into each other's potential partners, their family situation, like how are their parents, and how the siblings, and how they are taught in the family. And they just try to get all this information from the neighbors, the co-workers, college friends. And so that they actually, before they allow their children to date with them, with the other party.
Yeah.
So that is just avoid a lot of time and trouble down the road, because we recently heard two families that they later realized in the marriage that the other party is abusing their children.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So can avoid it, at least get that, out
Yeah.
of the
Yeah.
equation.
Yeah. Sociopaths can hide themselves for a little while.
Yeah. But very hard to hide for 3 years.
Yeah.
Especially you
Well,
start to
even hard to hide for 1 year.
Yeah. A lot can be hit in a few months, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've touched on it before, but you got to know how your future partner will handle conflict.
You better have a few really solid conflicts before you commit to marriage.
Yeah.
Because how they handle the conflict, you might not accept.
Yeah.
Be their spouse. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're looking for, curious listening, negotiation, seeking to understand first. And as opposed to accusations, yelling, cursing.
So the manners that lead to divorce is things like a harsh criticism, like calling the names,
Mm-hmm.
and contempt,
That's
dishonest.
a really big one.
Contempt's really good, really. I heard that the study shows people, have a smirk.
Yeah.
They have a very high chance of divorce.
Yeah.
That one. So contempt and dishonest,
Yeah.
defensiveness, and I think another big thing is that lack of control of emotion.
Right.
Right. Once emotions start to explode, there's no which you can.
So you want to be dating long enough to have gone through some hardships
Yeah.
together.
Yeah. You also want to see how they handle the major life difficulties, like, for instance, how they're going to, what they're going to do when they lose a job or lose a major family member.
Right. Yeah. Are they supportive? And
when you have a major
yeah,
life
when you do,
difficulty, when you
and
do, and how they handle their own, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it drinking and depression, and or is it
Go out for shopping.
yeah.
When they're depressed, they go shopping.
Yeah, just bad coping mechanisms.
Yeah.
Or is it just seeking to talk it out, and that's a more positive way to do it. And
yeah, meditation and go to workout and just positive thinking. We're gonna figure out how to come out best. And yes.
I've noticed good people tend to turn curses into blessings.
Oh yeah.
Seen it many times.
Yeah.
When something that appears tragic at first turns into something that's benefited them so much.
Yeah.
So another big readiness indicator in the relationship is a deep mutual trust.
How much you can trust each other, right?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So how about that then?
Well, I think that speaks for itself, doesn't it?
Well, what is indicate of deep, make it more specific? What's the deep trust? I think it should be something like you feel comfortable to open up yourself and discuss your weakness, your flaws, your past trauma.
Yeah, good point.
And on the opposite, if your partner never talk about their inner thoughts in the world, and if you ever slightly touch it, a big fight back, That's
or big avoidance.
Yeah. That could indicate that at least the trust is not deeply developed, or could be something even worse.
Right.
Yeah.
Another thing to ask yourself is, do you trust this person to, co-parent your children well? And that was one of the mistakes I made in my first marriage. My first failed marriage. I went into that marriage knowing I didn't want to have children with her because she was crazy.
So that's an indicator you should go through a conscious mind and realize if she won't be a good mother, you should marry her. You should not marry her, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's why I said, if you marry early, you might miss a lot of things.
Yeah.
It's not mature as later you realize a marriage have a lot of supports, a lot of factors. It's not just, she's sweet and she's kind and she's nice to me, right?
Yeah.
It's much, much more than that.
Yeah. So another thing is, readiness indicator is, do you really know each other's emotional triggers?
And how to handle them when triggers, boom, pressed.
Yeah. How, what to avoid and how to diffuse if it comes up.
Yes. That's a good trick to learn.
And, and also at the same time, because you're growing virtue, those triggers are becoming less and less triggering.
Yeah, that's true.
Your emotions for each other are much more than, they're a deeper sort of love. And what do I mean by that? Is, do you love the other's virtue? And so there are, the higher virtues like patience, honesty, and then there are lesser, like more aesthetic virtues, like promptness,
cleanliness,
physical fitness. Those are good virtues, but they're not as important as the high moral virtues.
Yeah, it's a higher level, the key virtues that will be there support your marriage last.
Right.
The cleanness might not be the single major polar to hold up your marriage.
Right.
Yeah. Did you notice that when people they are getting together, especially when they meet new people, right? You often hear people start talking about their virtues, right? And the interesting thing is, first time this person, I know her, she told me virtues, and then 3 months later, I found it was quite opposite. Yeah, she did not do what she said.
Right. And that happens a lot.
So don't listen.
And then there are also these faux virtues.
Yeah.
People put on to feel virtuous, but they're really not.
There's a lot of that fluffy character.
Like, adherence to an ideology or political or religious ideology is a faux virtue.
Or cool, or cute.
Or wealthy.
Or sexy, hot.
Yeah. Or intelligence. Intelligence is a great thing to have.
Smart, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's not really your virtue.
No.
It's something you were born with. And, and same with your looks. That's not a virtue.
Yeah, or she's sweet, or he's nice. This is it sounds very fluffy, but it's quite empty. Because of course in the dating time, she's sweet and he's nice, right? But the key question is, when they had a big fight, is she still sweet and is he still nice?
Right.
That's the time you say she's truly sweet, he's truly nice.
Yeah. So many times I'll ask someone, name some virtues of your loved one. And they'll say,
she works very hard.
Yeah. She's smart and funny.
Or she would say, one time I asked a lady, I said, why did you marry him after she divorced him and told me how bad he was? And she said, because he was cute.
Yeah. Yeah.
That should not be the reason.
Well, and it's very hard sometimes to see past that, right? When
That's why we have this conversation right here. I know, that's why we have this conversation right here.
Yeah. Try to step back and look at it objectively.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, he or she is cute, but then when they're angry with you, is she or he still cute? So that doesn't count. It's the hurt and the fight that break the marriage. It's not the cute will not hold it.
Mm-hmm. So another thing you should do before getting married is assess honestly what your partner means to you.
How important they are to you.
Yeah, how important.
Yeah.
Are you going to be tempted and feel kind of jealous if you see other people in the future and someone wealthier, and you're going to be envious of that or feel bad about your partner?
Yeah.
Or wealthier or sexier or maybe not drunk, as the case may be.
Yeah. Yeah, we do hear the story of that wife divorced the husband and became CEOs,
Yeah. Started an affair with the CEO of the husband's company.
Yeah.
Just because he was wealthier.
Yeah, because she wanted to get into that millionaire's lifestyle.
Right.
Yeah, and we also heard so many stories of that. The marriage broke, two marriage broke, and then the woman from one marriage married the other marriage's man because the two couples are friends.
Right. Yeah.
And then they found their friend's spouse is more desirable, and then it caused two family broke.
Yeah.
The problem is, when you broke your family, you don't just break your spouse. You break all your children, all of your children.
Yeah.
You break all them up.
Terrible thing to do to children.
Yes. So if you are really ready to the marriage, that means nobody else will in any way attract you. You're fully satisfied with your partner. And that regardless, somebody is sexier, wealthier, prettier, regardless, you just want your partner.
Right.
Okay. Another thing that you need to ask yourself is that, why do I want to marry? If the answer is a wedding, is parents' pressure,
religious pressure,
and or simply because my biological clock is ticking, so I need to find someone. Yeah, and I'm getting old, So if these are the reasons that you want to get married, I think you should hold it back.
Right.
Because this reason cannot sustain a lifelong marriage. It's a commitment.
So another thing you should do before getting married is discuss in detail what is your ideal life with your partner? What does that look like?
The married life, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
What children will that involve? How many?
Yeah. When?
And when to have them and how to raise them.
Homeschool?
Or not, yeah.
How to discipline them?
Yes.
Get an agreement on that.
Yeah.
And how to manage finance, the income, and the spend, the budgets.
Yeah.
And
so one of the most important things is that you have very similar worldviews.
Mm-hmm.
And very similar values.
Yeah.
If your values are much different, it's going to be
very hard.
at best a very hard marriage.
Yeah. And how about splitting the chores? And how about religion?
Mhm.
Talking about religion, Garrett and I, we have different religion. He doesn't have one, but I have my own religion. So what we do is we respect each other. I don't put anything try to convert him. I always respect that he doesn't want religion.
Mm-hmm. Except when you pray to have me join your religion, but you don't put any pressure on me.
No, I don't put pressure on him. So that work out. Then the next is that you need to ask your friends and parents' opinion about your partner. You don't have to listen to them, but it's good to know what they think about it. They might have something that you missed. Mm-hmm. It's nice to verify and clarify things.
Yeah.
To make sure everything's good.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes that helps and sometimes it doesn't.
Uh-huh.
I know my dad objected to my first marriage.
Uh-huh.
And I wish I listened to him, but
yeah.
At the time he couldn't quite put into words, why was he objecting?
Uh-huh.
And he was making up reasons, and telling me about, she's not high on this or that virtue that was one of actually a faux virtue.
Wow.
And so it didn't really click with me, it didn't make sense. And
another thing is you're going to come to realize marriage is not a fluffy thing. It's not end of the forever living love bubble, romantic life together. It's actually quite contrary. Marriage is a commitment, an agreement to serve each other and together to serve the children. It involves a lot of work. So you're going to be prepared and happy, glad to serve your spouse and your future children. Yeah. Otherwise, hold back.
Yeah, exactly. So Aunt May and I, our marriage improved so much once we really started saying, okay, we're going mutually, we're going to try and be better for each other all the time. Continuous improvement, be better for each other. And that's just led to happiness and more fulfillment and just better and better all the time.
Yeah. I have a habit periodically ask Uncle Garrett that, do you notice I have any problem that I like to improve for you? I want to be a better wife for you. And
and then I give her a big long list.
And then I work on that for months and years. And that's true. Really, we do that.
Well, I don't give you a big long list.
Yeah, not a big list. But for your list, I always work on that. And showed result that over the time I improve. So
and it's always framed very positively.
Yeah. And you too. Right. So we slowly grow into each other's ideal wife and husband.
Yeah.
So now we are married for, in a few months, we are about 18 years anniversary, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know about you. I feel like the sweetness and the love in this marriage just go like 80%, 80 times.
Yeah.
Compared to at the beginning of marriage.
When you say it's not all fluffy, well, it is when you approach it with the right frame of mind and right attitudes and values.
Yeah. Eventually we came to say, I'm going to stop to change Uncle Garrett. I'm going to change myself for him. And that really gets the thing rolling. I start to change for him. He started changing for me. I'll just, that just goes so well.
And so another part of that is, one of the main purposes of marriage is to have children.
Exactly.
And you have to be ready to use that marriage to raise the children the very best you can. And that's going to take some sacrifice, but it's going to be so worth it.
Yeah. Like you need to educate yourself, right?
Right.
All the things you need to taking care during the pregnancy and then toddler. I mean, not just taking care of them, feeding and clothing and maybe saving for the college fund.
Right.
It's also about learning how to discipline them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Raise them into a great person to serve the society.
Right.
And has greater virtue, instill the love of virtue in them, right?
Right. So the greatest gift you can give your child and yourself is the love of growing virtue.
Yeah.
And for goodness sake, you aren't going to spank the love of growing virtue into a child.
I would add on is that if you don't have that virtue, but you teach your children to have that virtue, what they will figure out is that's okay. Mom's doing that's okay. Parents is doing that, so that should be fine.
Right.
But they're
oh yeah. Children are super duper hyper hypocrite finders.
and they will say. And they will say, how I can respect my parents.
Well, and even before they can really articulate it, what they do is they rebel. Or they cause trouble and make, a lot of tantrums and fussing because they're detecting your hypocrisy.
And they are following your action, not following your words.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty clear.
Yeah.
Yeah. So... make sure you carry out what you teach your children.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And be ready for that,
Yeah.
And I've also wanted to make the point is, having children is probably the most meaningful thing you'll do in your whole life.
Yes.
If you raise your children well,
yes,
that's gonna outshine any career.
Yes.
Any accomplishment.
Yes.
Because there's nothing better.
Yeah.
There's no higher achievement.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe if you're Einstein or,
yeah.
or, discover the cure for cancer or something. Well, okay, maybe.
Yeah. Raise a person into a great adult. It is one of the greatest things you can do in your hands, in your life you can do.
And so much of the propaganda says for a woman to be fulfilled, she has to work in the workforce and in some office. And it's usually, making PowerPoints or presentations or being some kind of manager. How is that more important than raising a child? I mean, it just seems... If you think about it for 2 seconds, it just seems so much lower. And why does society try and say, women can't be happy until they're making PowerPoints?
Yeah. Spend some time with children actually is a very fulfilling thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and forming them,
Yeah.
Raising them and
yeah.
helping to form wonderful, stable, and generous and kind and honest and great personalities, virtuous.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't give them to the TV nanny or computer game nanny.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also to be really ready for marriage, you really have to know yourself.
Yeah.
You should, and so many people just don't do this. They review your life and look at the traumas you've had, the the virtues you've been taught or not. Do an honest assessment. Learn some of the malprogramming that you've gotten from your family. Everyone has some. No
or surroundings, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just need to spend some time to review your past life as third person,
Right.
to find your weakness, your flaws,
Right.
and you need to work on them, because it's each other's, both parties' flaws, weakness, as trauma, and the lack of virtue eventually deteriorate the marriage.
Right.
And bring the marriage to a
Right.
breaking point,
But
or broke your marriage.
Even if you have, if you lack virtues,
Yeah.
one of the greatest blessings of a marriage, if you use it this way, if you truly love to grow virtue, is your partner can see your flaws so much better than you can.
Yes, exactly.
and it's a great opportunity. And if you really love to grow virtue, it's a great opportunity for your spouse to help you with that.
Yes.
With constructive criticism.
Yeah.
And
just ask questions, why do you feel this way?
yeah.
When it started,
Yeah,
right?
even better
Or
if you
bring it
don't sit there and wait for them to criticize you, is you ask for criticisms. How can I
have
do you
this
think I should do
problem.
this
I always
better?
feel nervous when I face this kind of situation, right?
Yeah.
And then we can
Yeah.
have a discussion like, when it started, right?
Yeah.
What do you feel? Why you feel
have
that
an
way?
honest and curious and loving
Yeah.
conversation,
Yeah.
non-judgmental, and that can lead to so much growth.
Self-discovery. And then once you find the root cause, actually that root cause doesn't have the existing condition anymore. It's so much easier that you don't have that reaction anymore.
Yeah.
You're freed yourself from certain trigger points.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the last one is a bonus. That is the point of that. Know the love language of your partner. Because I may think that cleaning the kitchen every day, making it bad, is show my love to my husband, Uncle Garrett. But Uncle Garrett said, "Oh, what do you like?"
Yeah. Is that something that I perceive as love?
Yeah, and Uncle
Not
Garrett,
necessarily.
Uncle Garrett perceive if I make a nice cheesecake or a strawberry pie
Or pizza.
or a pizza.
That love.
is love. So I got the cookbooks and I find recipes online, practice. So you're going to learn what is your partner's love language.
Yeah.
It might be walking on the beach or hiking the mountain or diving scuba diving in somewhere, whatever. Do your best to fulfill that.
Right.
So they perceive that as you are giving love.
Yeah. And that kind of relates to another point. Is if your partner feels loved, that can make up for so many mistakes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a huge bank account that you can draw on. If they feel loved, a lot can be forgiven.
Not only that, they can be changed from criticize to lovely. Say, "Hi, honey, you forget this." Right?
That's something I hear many times a day.
Yeah. And honey, you forget this, right? But if you don't have any credit with me, I could say, "Honey, I can't believe you forget this again."
Right.
But you have credit with me, I'll say, "Oh, honey, you forget this. So try to remember next time, okay?"
Exactly.
Right? That's a huge difference.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's the credit of love.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we covered all.
Okay.
And I hope this conversation.
This-
Help
another long conversation here. A lot of points.
We're trying to cut it short during the editing. I hope this answered the question and help whoever need this information.
Yeah. Please like, share, subscribe. We like likes.
We also like the suggestion of topics.
Yes.
I like these two topics, the finance and when to marry. I always feel like the great topics. Really, thank you.
All right. So until next time, this is Uncle Garrett.
This is Aunt May.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.